He stepped in slow, boots dragging soil across the hardwood. The door had stayed open too long. Heat clung to the hallway like breath that wouldn't leave. She was there again. On the floor. Same spot. Same posture. Legs tucked under her like folded linen. Bare feet. Dirt on the heel. A stack of books rising at her side. 4 tall, 1 open. 2 more in her lap. He froze. They were all hers. MRO stamped on every spine, every title page. The schoolhouse stamp, faded red, branded over her name like she was never meant to read them in the first place. The baby didn't know letters yet, but her fingers kept moving. Gentle, precise. One book balanced on another. Then another. Then another. He swallowed. Put those down. She didn't. Put 'em down or I take 'em. Still no movement. Her hand slid to the open book beside her. Pages are stiff. Yellowed. She tapped one. Mama. He blinked, stayed still. The air changed. Mama, she said again, louder. You don't know what that means. She tapped harder, not crying, not scared, certain. He stepped forward, knees creaked, his hand reached for the book. She slapped it. Don't. He stared at her. You don't say that. He whispered. She pointed again. Mama. It's just a name. The blood was there. Bottom corner of the page, brown now, curling into the edge of a torn line. Underneath, black ink, then a scratch out, then the same name, scratched again, still readable, M. Rowe. He didn't want to read what came next. She stood, quiet, holding the book to her chest. The tower of books tumbled behind her. The sound felt too loud. He rubbed his face. Go sit down. She didn't move. I said go. No. He let the word hang. It wasn't hers. Not really. She didn't talk like that. Not unless someone had taught her. Where'd you learn that? She didn't answer. You hear that from town? She shook her head. You hear it from her? The baby sat, cross-legged, still holding the book. Where is she? He asked. Nothing. You saw her? She nodded. That's not possible. She shrugged. You're not old enough. She comes back. He stared. She stands at the window. That window's boarded. The baby shrugged again. She reads. Number she doesn't. She holds me. He sat down across from her, careful, heavy, hands on his knees. She's not here. She is. She was buried. No. You saw me do it. The baby pressed the book into his chest. She said you buried the wrong one. His throat tightened. That ain't funny. She said she's still cold. He looked toward the fireplace. Ash is still there, unmoved. No flames, no warmth. He hadn't lit it since. She said the books remember. That's nonsense. Read it. He shook his head. Read it. He grabbed the book, flipped it, scanned the page. It wasn't a story. It was a record, a letter maybe, scrawled cursive, her handwriting. He knew the way she looped her rupees. Always high, always stubborn. The lines bled into each other like she'd written in a storm. If this ends, let it end here. Let the baby stay. If they come for me again, tell them it was never just me. They'll erase my name, but the blood won't leave the page. He closed the book. You don't understand any of that. She smiled, just barely. The kind of smile that looked too old on a face that small. You're not supposed to know those words. I remember her. You were a baby. I still am. That's not what I meant. The wind creaked the siding. Something thumped upstairs. Neither flinched. You think she's haunting this house? He asked. She nodded once. She's not haunting it. It's haunting her. She said the floorboards are listening. He looked down. The warped wood beneath him hadn't been sanded since spring. Scratches are still visible, some from boots, some from fingernails. Is she angry? She's waiting. For what? The baby looked past him, toward the front door, toward the open field, toward the hill where the grave sat, covered but not quiet. Did I make a mistake? She didn't answer. Was she still breathing? Nothing. I checked. She tilted her head. Did you? He couldn't remember now. The screaming had stopped, but maybe it was hers, or the child's, or his own. You need to forget this. She said you can't forget what you buried alive. I didn't. The baby walked to the window, climbed onto the bench, pressed her hand to the glass. She's coming. Stop it. She said the books open themselves when it's time. Stop. One behind him flipped. He turned fast, but no one was there. He stared at the book. It wasn't one she'd touched. It wasn't one he'd seen. "Mama," she whispered behind him. He didn't move. She pressed her hand to the glass again. The house moaned. He looked down at the open page. A different name this time, his own. Blackened once, then again. But not enough to hide it. Just enough to forget. Just enough to pretend it never mattered. He sat back. The book closed by itself. The sound wasn't a knock. Not really. Just a brush of wood. Fingernails, maybe. A weight pressing but never striking. He stood there with the shovel still in his hands, dirt clinging to the metal edge. The baby had gone quiet in the corner, clutching the book to her chest like it might keep her breathing. He didn't move to open the door. Didn't have to. The shape filled the porch glass. Tall, hat brim low. A badge catching a thin sliver of light. The sheriff. The door stayed shut. "You bury her well?" The man gripped the shovel tighter. His voice came back sharp. She wasn't. "Whole." The sheriff leaned into the frame, boots heavy. "Then maybe don't rest just yet." The man didn't answer. He just stood with the shovel between them, wood handle slick with sweat. The baby spoke first. "He knows." The sheriff's head turned, the brim lifted, eyes locked on the child, not the man. "Put that book down." She didn't. "Put it down," the sheriff said again, steady. The man stepped in. "She's fine holding it." "She's not fine at all." "Don't tell me what the fine is." The sheriff's hand moved near his belt. Not a weapon, not yet. Just a warning. "Open the door," he said. "No." "You think I won't come through?" "You haven't yet." The silence stretched. The baby flipped the book open, small hands tracing letters she couldn't sound. The sheriff's jaw clenched when he saw the page. "You found that?" "She stacked 'em herself," the man muttered. "Kids don't stack books like that, not unless someone showed 'em. She's just playing. That one in her lap ain't play." The man's throat went dry. "You know what's in it?" "I knew before you did." The baby tapped the bloodstain. "Mama." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Don't let her say that. She'll say what she wants. She doesn't know what it means. She knows enough." The sheriff shifted his boots on the porch. Dust scraped under the heel. He kept staring through the glass, not breaking the line. "You're tired," the sheriff said. "You dug too shallow. You should know better. The ground here doesn't keep secrets long." The man felt his stomach twist. "She's not coming up." "She already has." The baby closed the book and dragged it into her lap, rocking with it. The sheriff's voice dropped. "She'll carry it for both of you." The man shook his head. "You talk like you see her." "I did." "When?" "Before you buried her." "You didn't stop me." "Wasn't my place." "You're the law." "The law doesn't touch what you don't want to touch." The baby whispered something into the spine of the book. Neither man caught it. The sheriff tilted his head. "Did she say anything else?" The man tightened his jaw. "She talks too much." "What words?" "She says mama." "Only that?" "Sometimes more." The sheriff waited. "She said the floor listens, said the books open themselves." "Does that sound like her to you?" The man didn't answer. The sheriff's hand pressed flat against the glass, but still didn't push through. His fingers curled into a fist. "You think burying her fixes it?" "It had to be done." "She wasn't whole." "No one's whole." "She was broken." "Everyone's broken." The sheriff dropped his fist. "Not like her." The man stepped closer to the door. The shovel between them caught the light. "What happens now?" he asked. The sheriff's shoulders lifted slowly, then fell. "Depends how deep you want to dig. Deeper than before." "Won't matter. Soil won't hold her." The man's voice cracked. "Then what do I do?" The sheriff's eyes shifted to the child again. "You wait. She'll tell you. She's just a baby. So was the first one." The man's chest tightened. "Don't. You think she didn't bleed for that too?" "Stop." The baby looked up. "Why is he angry?" The sheriff softened his stare just a little. "Because he doesn't want to hear the truth." "What truth?" she asked. "That she ain't gone." The man slammed the shovel tip into the floorboards. "Enough." The sheriff didn't move. He just leaned back, stepped off the porch. His boots crunched against the gravel, but he didn't leave. He stood at the edge of the yard, facing the hill. The grave sat there, dark against the pale grass. The man stayed by the door, shovel trembling in his hands. The baby rocked with the book, humming low. The sheriff called without turning back. "Sleep if you can. She won't let you." The man pressed his forehead to the glass. "Sheriff." But the words stuck. The sheriff walked toward the grave, slow, unhurried, like he already knew what he'd find. The man tried not to look, tried not to follow with his eyes, but the baby lifted her head. "She's coming," she whispered. The man's breath caught. The sheriff stopped halfway to the hill. I looked down, bent low. His hand brushed the soil. The man gripped the shovel so hard the handle cracked. The sheriff stood again, turned back toward the house. He raised his hand, not in threat, not in peace, just a signal. "Too shallow," he said. Then he walked into the dark. The man shut the door, but couldn't lock it. The latch hung broken. Behind him, the baby opened the book again. "Mama." Her voice echoed against the floorboards. This time, the house answered. The fire hissed, but didn't take. Pages curled at the edges, browned, flaked into ash. The stack burned uneven, smoke clawing its way up the chimney. He stood close, shovel still in his grip, feeding the books one by one. They popped as glue melted, covers sagged, words turned black. The baby sat cross-legged on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. She didn't cry at first, just watched. He tossed another in. The flame swallowed fast. Then another. Same. Then he reached for the last one. He didn't even look at the spine, just shoved it in. The scream hit him hard, high, sharp, ragged. The baby shrieked like skin on fire. Her hands clawed the air, her face twisted. He yanked the book back, dropped it onto the hearth. It wasn't touched. Not a mark, not even smoke. The baby gasped, hiccuped, and crawled fast across the boards. She pulled it to her chest, rocking, eyes wide. He knelt. "What was that?" She shook her head, clutching tighter. It didn't burn. She shook again. He pulled it from her arms, rougher this time, flipped the cover open. No title, no ink. Blank. He thumbed through until he stopped cold. On one page, a name was stitched, not written, not pressed, sewn with thread. Red faded to brown. Each letter jagged, uneven, pulled through the paper like skin. He whispered it, not hers. "Who sewed this?" His voice cracked. The baby lifted her hand, pointed to the ground. He swallowed. "Buried?" She pointed again. Harder. Then she raised her arm, pointed to the attic. He stared at her. Her finger dropped last, pressing against her own chest. "No." She nodded. "You didn't." She nodded again. "You can't even." He broke off, staring at the thread, the page trembling in his hands. "Tell me," he said. She didn't. She just rocked, whispering something low, words he couldn't catch. He shoved the book toward the flames again. The baby screamed louder than before. He pulled back quickly. His hand shook. The page still looked new. He slammed it shut. The room hushed. "You're not doing this to me," he muttered. "Not again." The baby crawled close, set her palm flat on the cover. "She told me," she whispered. "Who?" "Mama. She's gone. She said sew it tight so he can't take it back." His stomach turned. "Take what back?" The baby didn't blink. "Her name." He gripped the book harder. The thread seemed to rise, pulling against itself like muscle. He tried to tug, but it held firm, biting the page. "Did you sew this?" he asked again. The baby's head tilted. "I bled it." His throat locked. "Don't talk like that." "I bled it," she repeated louder. "Stop." "You did too." "No." She said you both did. The wind rattled the shutters. The flames spit sparks. He backed from the hearth. The book still clutched. "Who else knows?" "She said the sheriff does." His grip tightened. "Of course he does." She said he watched her do it. He shook his head. "She never." He told her thread not to burn. The man sat hard on the chair, the book heavy on his lap. His chest heaved. "She shouldn't have written it," he whispered. "She didn't." "Then who did?" The baby's eyes followed the rising smoke. "The one she buried first." He leaned forward. "What do you mean first?" The baby placed both hands on the book now, pressing hard. "Before me?" "No." "Yes." There was no before. She said there was. The man's head dropped. His knuckles turned white around the cover. "I would have known." The baby shook her head. "You never looked." He stared at her, waiting. "She said you turned away." "When?" "When the cord broke twice." His face went pale. "That's not real." "She said it is." He slammed the book on the table. Pages rattled, but the thread stayed tight. He tried once more to rip it free. Nothing. "Why won't it open?" "Because you won't say it." "Say what?" Her name. He stared at the stitches. Each loop looked more like scar than thread. You think I don't remember. His voice cracked. The baby pressed her ear against the cover. She remembers you. He shoved back from the table, pacing hard, shovel still in his grip. I buried her, he said. I put her down deep. I covered it all. The baby's eyes followed him. Not deep enough. He stopped. What did you say? She said it was not deep enough. He dropped the shovel. The sound rang across the boards. The baby slid the book back into her lap. She said, dig again. He sank into the chair, head in his hands. I can't. You will. No. She said you already did. He looked up. When? The baby pressed her finger to the floor. While you slept. He stared at her, breath sharp, heart heavy. Show me. She stood, book in hand, walked to the center of the room. She knelt, pressed the thread-sewn page flat against the boards. The wood gave a low groan like it knew. The fire behind him sputtered, then dropped to a thin glow. He bent down, ear close to the floor. For a moment, nothing. Then, soft, steady as breath, he heard it. The name, Sewn. Whispered, waiting. The attic groaned as he climbed. Dust lifted in the beam of his lantern, drifting like it had been waiting all these years. The baby followed close, her bare feet slapping soft against the boards. She pointed straight at the far wall, small hand steady. You sure? He asked. She nodded once. He ran his palm over the paneling. Thin, uneven, not part of the original frame. Whoever nailed it had done it in a hurry. He shoved hard. The wood didn't give. He brought the shovel up, swung. The plank cracked sharp. Dust poured down. Another swing, and it broke free. Behind it, letters. Dozens, maybe more. Bundled in twine, edges chewed by mice. Some still sealed, others torn half open. He pulled the stack out and set it on the floor. The baby crouched close, eyes wide. He untied the bundle. The first one started simple. To the town council. Words pressed hard into the page. She'd written like her hand shook, but her will didn't. You look away at night. You know where the children go. You know who knocks after curfew. Stop pretending it's just sickness. He swallowed. I looked at the baby. You don't need to hear this. She leaned closer anyway. He opened another. To the pastor. If God watches, then why do you tell us to keep still? I won't keep still. My students don't know what silence costs yet, but they will. And when they speak, you'll hear it. His chest tightened. He kept reading. Every letter was a plea. Some raged. Some begged. None of them are soft. She wrote names too. Family names. Old ones tied deep into the soil. And every one of them unsigned, like she knew they'd burn her quicker if she claimed it. Until the end. The ink on this one was darker, fresher, though it must have been written before the dirt took her. His hand trembled as he unfolded it. If I die, blame the badge, not the man. The words rang inside him like they'd been waiting. He read them aloud. The baby clapped once, twice, smiling. She said you'd find it. He shook his head, voice breaking. She wrote this for you. Number for them. But she named me. She said you'd carry it. His throat burned. He pressed the page to his chest. I never should have put her down there. The baby leaned her head sideways, resting it on her shoulder. You didn't. I dug it. She said the badge did. He didn't answer. He couldn't. The attic shifted, boards creaking low. He folded the letter, slid it into his pocket. The baby stacked the rest in her lap. We will send them now, she said. No one will read 'em. They'll hear. They'll tear 'em apart. They'll still hear. Before he could answer, a sound rose from below. Knock. He froze. Not heavy, not sharp. Just that same quiet tap against the doorframe, like someone pressing, but never landing. The baby's eyes went wide. He came back. The man stood quickly, shovel in one hand, lantern in the other. Stay up here. She clutched the letters to her chest. He climbed down slowly, boots creaking each step. The knocking didn't change. Software relentless. At the bottom, he paused. The door was shut. Latch still broken. The shape on the porch leaned into the glass, badge glinting again. Are you still standing there? The man called. The sheriff didn't answer. You hear me? The baby's voice floated down from above. Read it to him. The man's heart pounded. He pulled the letter from his pocket, opened it with shaking hands. You want to hear it? He shouted at the door. The figure didn't move. He read anyway, voice ragged, loud enough to carry. "If I die, blame the badge, not the man." The knocking stopped. Silence pressed in hard. The baby clapped again upstairs. The sound was small, but it cut through. The man lowered the page. His breath came heavy. "You hear that?" he muttered to the door. "She named you." The sheriff didn't come inside. He just stood, shadow still against the glass. The man gripped the shovel. "Why don't you answer? You killed her, didn't you?" "Nothing." He slammed the butt of the shovel against the floor. "Say it." Silence. Upstairs, the baby called down. "He won't." She said he never would. The man's shoulders sagged. "Then what do we do?" "Send the letters." He looked back up toward the attic. "To who?" "To everyone." The figure on the porch shifted, one step back, then another. The shadow thinned. The man darted to the window. "Where are you going?" The yard was empty. He opened the door, but the porch was bare. No boots in the dust, no trail leading away. He stepped out slow, shovel raised. Nothing but silence across the field. The grave sat still on the hill, the mound sharp against the moonlight. His breath shook. He backed inside, closed the door. The baby waited at the top of the stairs, clutching the bundle of letters. "He won't knock again," she said. He stared at her. "How do you know?" She lifted the book with the stitched name. The thread caught the light. She said he doesn't need to. He climbed the steps toward her, slow, heavy. "Why not?" She said the house already let him in. The lantern flickered once, twice, then dimmed. The walls moaned, the air dropped cold, and from somewhere deep inside the boards, faint as breath, the knocking started again. Not on the door. Inside. The letters stayed scattered across the table. He hadn't slept. The baby was curled in a chair, arms around the stitched book like it was a pillow. He kept reading her words until the ink blurred, until the lamp gave out. His hands shook when he turned the last page. "They'll hide what they can burn. They'll keep what fire won't touch. Look under the hearth. Look for the one they never found." He dropped the letter, stared at the fireplace. The stones were black, but not charred through. He grabbed the shovel, jammed the edge into the mortar. It cracked. He dragged brick after brick free until the hollow opened. His breath caught. The cradle. Small, pale wood. No soot. No ash. Not even dust. Like it had been waiting. The baby slid off the chair, crawled forward, pressed her cheek against the rocker. She whispered low, "Mama." He set the shovel aside, reached in and dragged it out. The wood didn't creak. It didn't feel right. Too light, too cold. He tilted it. Carvings marked the underside of the rockers. He traced them with his thumb. Symbols, shapes, letters cut deep. Not initials. Something older. The front door groaned. He froze. Boots hit the floor. Heavy. Slow. The sheriff stood there, hat low, eyes on the cradle. "She rocked it every night," the sheriff muttered. The man's jaw tightened. "You watched." The sheriff didn't blink. "I listened." "Then why'd she die?" She stopped talking. The baby looked up at him. "You let her." The sheriff shifted his boots. "It wasn't mine to stop. You're the law." "The law's just silence in a star pinned to a chest." The man clenched his fists. "She wrote your name. She wrote her truth. She wrote your truth too." The sheriff's gaze drifted back to the cradle. "She thought naming me would matter. It never does." The man dragged the cradle closer. "What's carved here?" The sheriff stepped forward slow. "Don't touch it." "You know? I heard her when she cut it." "Tell me." The sheriff shook his head. "Better not say." The baby traced the marks with her finger. "It says she didn't want to be quiet." The sheriff's mouth twitched. "You can't read that." "She can," the man said. "No." The sheriff muttered. "She hears it." The man snapped. "Then say what it means." The sheriff crouched, boots cracking the floor. He brushed dust from the rocker. His hand trembled when he pulled back. She marked every night she couldn't sleep. Every time she rocked the silence back into herself. They told her to keep quiet, and she carved the nights instead. The man's chest heaved. "You knew." "I heard." "And you left her." "She wasn't mine to save." "She was mine." The baby whispered, "She's still here." The sheriff stood again, taller than both of them. "She will be, as long as that cradle stays." The man stared down. The cradle looked too clean, too untouched. "Why didn't the fire take it?" The sheriff's voice dropped. Because it already burned. The man snapped his head up. What does that mean? She burned it herself, long before, not with flame, with silence. It's ash inside. The man grabbed the edge, flipped it, empty, hollow, but the baby pressed her ear to it. She's singing. The sheriff's jaw clenched. Don't listen. She's singing, the baby said again, louder this time. The man leaned down, pressed his own ear to the wood. Faint, low, a rhythm. Not words, just breath, rocking. He jerked back. Why would she? The sheriff cut him off. Because no one else would listen. The man shoved the cradle across the floor. Then what am I supposed to do with this? The sheriff didn't move. Rock it. No. You want her quiet? Rock it. I buried her. And she came back. The man's eyes burned. He grabbed the cradle, shoved it toward the fire. Flames licked high, but the wood didn't catch. The baby screamed again. He yanked it back, slammed it onto the boards. His chest heaved. Why won't it burn? The sheriff's eyes stayed steady. Because she's not done talking. The baby clapped her hands once. Rock it, she whispered. The man shook his head. I can't. You will, the sheriff said. Why? Because you owe her more than a grave. The house went still. The fire dropped low. Only the cradle seemed alive, waiting. The baby curled inside it, a small frame fitting too well. She rocked once, twice. The carvings rasped against the floor. She said, don't stop. The baby whispered. The man sat heavy, staring at her, staring at the cradle. Don't stop what? She said, don't stop hearing. The sheriff tipped his hat low. That's all she ever wanted. The man pressed his hands over his face. His breath came rough. She died asking, he whispered. No, the sheriff said, voice steady. She died proving. The baby rocked again. Slow, certain. The cradle creaked now, though it hadn't before. The sound filled the room, steady as breath. He lowered his hands, eyes wet, face drawn. What happens if I keep rocking? The sheriff turned toward the door. Then maybe she rests. The baby stopped, her eyes locked on his. She said, it's your turn. The man reached out, set his hand on the wood, and pushed. The cradle moved, and the house moved with it. The cradle kept rocking long after he stopped touching it. The sound filled the room, boards groaning with each slow sway. The baby sat curled inside, eyes half shut, lips moving like she was hearing something the others couldn't. The sheriff stayed by the door, hat low, badge dim in the lantern light. He hadn't spoken in minutes, just watched. Finally the man turned, his voice cracked. Tell me what you know. The sheriff's jaw tightened. You don't want it. I need it. You'll wish you didn't. Say it. The sheriff's eyes flicked to the cradle, then back. His voice dropped low. She gave birth once, then again. Same child, same room. 2 cries. The man staggered back like struck. No. One survived. The cradle creaked louder, like it hurt him. The man's fists clenched. You lie. I was there, the sheriff said. His chest heaved. Where? Outside the door. You listened. I had to. You watched her break. I watched you leave. The baby rocked forward, small hands gripping the edge of the cradle. She said the cord came back. The man's head snapped toward her. Don't say that. She said it. The sheriff's voice cut in. It rapped twice. The man's voice dropped to a rasp. There was a second scream. The sheriff's eyes hardened. Number A, second silence. The room froze. Even the fire hushed. The man dragged the cradle forward, knees buckling under the weight that wasn't there. His fingers slipped under the lip, lifted the lid he hadn't noticed before. It opened with a groan. The baby leaned over, staring into the hollow. Nothing inside, but her eyes widened anyway. Her breath caught. She didn't blink. What do you see? The man whispered. The baby didn't answer. She just stared, unmoving, as if something stared back. Tell me, he pressed. Still nothing. The sheriff stepped closer, boots scraping. He looked into the cradle too. His shoulders stiffened. Close it. The man shook his head. What's there? Close it. You see it. I hear it. The baby's lips parted. Her whisper was faint. She said one breath stayed. The man's throat locked. What breath? She said it's still. Here. The sheriff's hand reached out, slammed the lid shut. The sound cracked through the room. The cradle went still. The man lunged forward. Why do you do that? Because you don't want to carry it. It's mine. It was hers. The man shoved him back. You let her die. The sheriff didn't flinch. She chose silence. You chose it for her. The sheriff's jaw worked. You walked out of that room. I thought it was over. You knew it wasn't. The baby crawled out of the cradle, dragging the stitched book with her. She set it between them. She said, write it again. Neither man moved. The baby tapped the cover. She said the cord never stopped. You cut it once, then twice. The man's knees buckled. I don't remember. You do, the sheriff said. He grabbed the book, tore it open. The stitched letters shook under his fingers. What do I write? She said her name. The baby whispered. The sheriff's voice cut hard. Don't. The man snapped his head up. Why not? You write it. You keep her. Then I will. She won't rest. She's not resting anyway. The sheriff stepped back. You'll bring both. The man froze. Both? The one you buried and the one you didn't. The baby's eyes didn't leave the cradle. She said they sound the same. The fire hissed. The boards groaned. The house seemed to lean closer. The man pressed the page flat. His hand shook with the pen. He stared at the blank space, waiting. The sheriff's voice dropped. You write it. You don't get to choose which one answers. The baby leaned close, her breath soft in the stillness. Mama said, don't be afraid. The man gripped the pen tighter. Ink bled onto the paper, shaky, uneven. One letter, then another. He stopped halfway through. His chest heaved. I can't. You already did, the sheriff said. The baby smiled, small and sad. She said you did it twice. The man slammed the book shut. His head dropped into his hands. What do I do? The sheriff turned toward the door. Dig deeper. The baby laid her cheek against the cradle. Her whisper carried into the silence. She said the ground's already waiting. The man lifted his head. The cradle rocked on its own. The cradle hadn't moved in hours. Not a creak, not a breath. Just sat there in the center of the room like it had rooted into the floor. He watched it like it might jump, like it might split open. His hands were raw from the shovel, dirt still under his nails. He hadn't spoken since the sun rose. The baby hadn't cried. She sat nearby, legs pulled to her chest, eyes on the cradle like she was waiting for it to speak. The sheriff came without knocking. Didn't bother with the door, just stepped inside like he belonged. The man didn't look up. I figured it out, the sheriff said. Figured what? The sheriff took off his hat, stared at the cradle. You remember the night she screamed. The man nodded once. I remember. She gave birth once. I was there. The sheriff's jaw moved. Then again. The man looked up. What? Same child, same room. 2 cries. No. 1 survived. The man stood slow. Say that again. She gave birth, then something came back. She said the cord came back. The man whispered. The sheriff nodded. It rapped again, tight, like it remembered. There was a second scream. The sheriff's voice dropped. Number A, second silence. The baby blinked once. She said he wasn't breathing. The man turned to her. Who? She didn't know. She rocked both. He crossed to the cradle, dropped to his knees, lifted the lid he hadn't dared touch since the night before. It opened easily, empty. The baby stood, moved closer, peered in. Didn't speak. What do you see? The man asked. She didn't answer. The sheriff stayed back, arms folded, voice low. She held them both. There was only 1 child. No, I buried her with my own hands. You buried half of what she carried. The man's voice broke. Then where's the other half? The sheriff stepped forward. You think that child in the corner's the whole thing? She's alive. She's listening. The baby turned to them. She said I was always meant to be too. The man backed away from the cradle. You don't know what you're saying. She said 1 stayed inside. No. She said I rocked with her even after I stopped crying. The sheriff nodded. She rocked both. 1 body. 2 names. I didn't name the second, the man whispered. You didn't have time. The baby knelt beside the cradle, placed her hand inside. Hold it there. She said the silence grew teeth. The man looked at the sheriff. Is she talking like her? The sheriff didn't answer. The baby whispered, she said you cut the cord twice. He stared at her. I only remember once. That's how it works, she said. They make you forget the second. He dropped to the floor, head in his hands. Why would she keep this? She couldn't bury both, the sheriff said. So she rocked the one no one would see. The man's voice cracked. I could have helped. You walked out. I didn't know. She said you did. The baby laid her cheek against the cradle. She said the second one never left. The sheriff's tone changed. You feel it, don't you? The man didn't answer. Every night, when the cradle creaks and there's no weight inside, he looked up, eyes bloodshot. I thought it was a memory. It's the one you didn't bury. The baby whispered. He's quiet now, but he wasn't. Always. The cradle groaned once. Just once. The sheriff stepped back. Close it. I need to see. There's nothing you'll understand. The baby stood again. She said you have to say his name. I never gave him one. She did. What is it? The baby pressed her hand to the inside. It's the part of me that doesn't speak. The sheriff's voice went flat. She kept him in silence. Let him grow there. Let him wait. The man stared down into the empty cradle. It's not enough, he said. What? The sheriff asked. To remember, it's not enough. The baby looked at him. She said you were always the one who had to speak. The man shook his head. It's too late. The sheriff turned toward the door. Then he'll stay. Where? The baby answered. Under the floor. The cradle rocked once more, and this time something knocked back from underneath. The house felt heavier that morning, like the air had thickened around every object. The cradle hadn't moved all night, but the man swore he heard it rocking every time he blinked too slow. He didn't sleep. Neither did the baby. She sat upright in the chair near the hearth, watching something that wasn't there. Her hands clutched the stitched book like it could burn or bloom. The sheriff hadn't left. He stood by the doorway, arms crossed, badge dull in the lamplight. His voice was hoarse when he finally said, There's more. The man turned. More what? She didn't just write letters. She kept names. The baby climbed off the chair. Ledger. The man narrowed his eyes. Where? The sheriff nodded toward the back room. Behind the blackboard. You're sure? She said if anything happens, it'd be behind what tried to silence her. He moved fast. The baby followed. The sheriff stayed where he was. The blackboard was cracked, edges stained with soot. He pulled it forward. Dust billowed. Behind it, tucked between two beams, was a worn red book with leather corners. The ledger. He carried it to the table and opened it. Page after page of scratched-out names. Dozens, all blacked out, ink smeared like someone tried to erase them by force. Each name is a scar. The baby climbed onto the table, peered close. Why are they gone? He shook his head. She kept them here. Then someone took them out. Who? The sheriff stepped closer. People who don't want records. The man flipped further. Name after name, gone. Then one, a single entry untouched, center of the page, ink darker, thicker. It stopped him cold. The sheriff leaned in. I saw it. I froze. That one's mine, he said. The man looked at him. Say it. I can't. You have to. The sheriff's face cracked for the first time. Eyes rimmed red. I told her to take it out. I begged her. She left it in. She said someone had to remember. Then say it. I can't. The baby reached across the table, grabbed the pen. Thick black ink still clung to the tip. She climbed down, dragged it to the wall. What's she doing? The sheriff asked. The man didn't stop her. The baby pressed the pen to the wall, wrote it slowly. Crooked letters slanted. The name. The sheriff's hands twitched. No. The man stepped between them. Let her finish. The baby dragged the final letter. She stepped back. The name glistened in wet ink. Then the smear began. The letters melted, ran, dripped. The wall bled it downward, but the sound remained, a sharp whisper echoing through the room. The name again, clear, unmistakable. The sheriff fell back into a chair. His voice was a whisper. She told me it would live. The baby turned to him. It did. He covered his face. I was 17. She taught me letters. I wasn't supposed to be there. The man's eyes narrowed. You were her student? She taught at the boarding house. I wasn't the only boy. She wrote you down. She said I listened. The baby walked toward him. She said you listened once, but not the last time. The sheriff's shoulders dropped. I didn't go back. She waited, the baby said. She wrote you last because you were the only one who said her name right. The man turned to the ledger. That name, what does it mean? She gave it to him, the baby whispered, before she gave him silence. The man closed the book. He was the second scream. The sheriff shook his head. He was the one they told her not to speak of. The man grabbed the ledger. How many children did they take? Too many. And she taught all of them. She tried to keep their names safe. The baby pointed to the wall. She said the names won't stay quiet if someone speaks one out loud. The man stared at the black smear, still wet but humming. He whispered the name. The cradle creaked once. The sheriff stood. Don't say it again. She wanted it said, the man replied. She wanted it remembered, not returned. The baby pressed her palm to the smear. She said the ones who remember have to carry it. The sheriff backed away. I can't carry him. The man looked at the ledger. Then I will. The baby took the pen again, moved to a clean patch on the wall. What are you doing now? The sheriff asked. Writing the rest, she said, one by one. You don't know them. I hear them. The sheriff turned to leave. She said if I hear their names, the baby called, they won't haunt you anymore. He stopped, didn't turn around. Tell her I'm sorry, he whispered. The man stepped closer. You tell her. I already did. He stepped into the sun. Inside, the baby kept writing. They stood behind the schoolhouse, just in past the sagging shed where the firewood used to be stored. The sun hadn't come up yet. Fog clung low to the ground. The shovel's edge hit frost-bitten dirt with a sharp thunk. The man grunted as he dug. Slow, careful. He didn't ask why they were doing it. The sheriff hadn't explained much, just said, Here. The baby sat cross-legged on a flat stone nearby, watching, quiet, holding the stitched book across her knees. The sheriff didn't help dig, just stared at the patch of earth like it had wronged him. How long's it been? The man asked. The sheriff didn't answer. The man dug deeper. A foot. Then more. The soil darkened. Then bone. Small. Too small. He stopped. Knees hit the ground. He brushed dirt away with his hands. The bone led to more. A rib. A curve of the skull. He didn't speak. I didn't need to. The sheriff stepped forward. Too small to scream. The man looked up. This hers? The sheriff crouched, pulled something from the dirt. A red ribbon frayed on one end. Not hers, he muttered. Grave was ready before she ever got pregnant. The man's jaw clenched. So who buried him? The baby stood. I walked slowly. She knelt beside the grave, hands dirty, palms flat to the ground. She started stacking rocks, one by one, small ones, flat, balanced just right. She placed the 12th and stopped. The man looked at her. No 13th. She didn't meet his eyes. She said 13 burns. The sheriff's voice cracked. Don't say that. She did. She didn't mean it like that. The baby looked up. She meant exactly that. The man stood. Someone built this grave before she even carried it. The sheriff nodded. That's how it worked. They made the room before they made the silence. What does that mean? She was chosen, not asked. The baby whispered. She didn't get to say no. The man dropped the shovel. Then who decided? The sheriff stood. Same ones who blacked the names out of that ledger. Same ones who told her which kids to keep close and which ones to forget. The man stared at the tiny bones. He never cried. He never breathed. He still ended up here. Because they needed somewhere to hide what couldn't be taught. The baby placed a hand on the 12th stone. She said he was made, not born. The sheriff turned away. She shouldn't have told her that. The baby replied, She said I needed to know what silence grows into. The man looked at the sheriff. You knew this was here. I helped bury it. The man stepped back. You were part of it. I was 17, the sheriff said. They said it was a procedure. The man's voice rose. You put a child in the ground. I didn't know it was a child. You saw the bones. I thought it was over. The baby spoke softly. She said it was never over. The sheriff sat hard on a rock. It wasn't supposed to matter. They said if no name was given, no grief could stay. The man kneeled beside the grave. But she grieved. She never stopped. The baby placed her palm on the dirt. She said he listens. The man tilted his head. To what? To who speaks last. The sheriff muttered, We shouldn't have come here. The baby shook her head. She said this is where it began. The man stared at the pile of bones. We give him a name? The sheriff stiffened. Don't. He was hers. He was theirs. She rocked him in silence. She was never supposed to. She did anyway. The baby reached into her pocket, pulled out a scrap of cloth, torn from the back of the ledger, its edge still ink-stained. She handed it to the man. He looked at her. "You sure?" She said, "Every child deserves one thing with their name on it." He took the cloth, pressed it into the dirt beside the bones. "What do I write?" The baby answered. The name she whispered when she thought no one was listening. He paused. "Do you know it?" She nodded. "You said it once, by accident." The sheriff stood, shaken. "If you name him, he'll stay." "I want him to." "He's not yours. He was hers. That's enough." The man pulled the pen from his coat, bent low, wrote the name slowly. The baby watched, eyes wide. The wind picked up. The trees groaned. The 13th stone rolled from her hand and landed beside the cloth. She didn't stop. The sheriff turned. "Why'd you let that fall?" she whispered. "Because maybe some things should burn." The man rose. "Will we bury him again?" The sheriff's voice broke. "Number we mark him." The baby nodded. "So he knows someone heard." They covered the bones, stone by stone. No prayers, no words. Just the scrape of dirt and the weight of a name. When it was done, the baby set the last ribbon on top. She said the boy was never broken, just unfinished. The man closed his eyes. Then maybe now he can rest. The sheriff turned away, but the baby stayed facing the grave. She listened and smiled. He carried the stitched book against his chest like it might vanish if he let go. Each step down the slope into town felt heavier than the last. Gravel popped under his boots. The sheriff walked behind him, one pace back, not speaking. Badge dull, hat low. The baby stayed behind. Her part was done, she'd said. "They won't listen to me." They already didn't. The town hadn't changed. Same shutters, same closed doors, same silence. But as they walked deeper in, people began to gather. Eyes from porches, from windows. A storekeeper froze with a sack of flour in his arms. The blacksmith wiped soot from his hands and didn't look up. The church bell rang once. Not for them. He kept walking. When they reached the square, he stopped in front of the steps to the old town hall. "She taught here," he said. No one replied. "She read to the children here. She fed them when they were hungry." A pastor stepped out from the church entrance, robes faded, eyes sharp. "She taught them wrong." The sheriff didn't blink. The man turned to the pastor. What did she teach that was so dangerous? She didn't follow the guidebook. She didn't ask permission. She put ideas in their heads. She taught them to ask questions. She made them loud. The mayor emerged from behind him, small man, gray vest, clean hands. She read too loud. "She read the truth," the man said. The mayor shook his head. "She confused the children, told stories no one needed to hear." The man stepped up one stair. "She bled in that classroom. No one asked her to teach." The sheriff turned then, voice low. "She begged you to let her stay." The mayor's eyes flicked toward him. "We gave her a room. You gave her a corner. She wanted to make noise. She wanted to be heard. We heard too much." The man opened the book. Pages fluttered. He found the one sewn with names. Not ink. Thread. The red stitches like veins running through parchment. He held it high. "She wrote them down so they wouldn't vanish. The ones you took. The ones you erased." The crowd murmured. Faces twitched. "She kept a record. She kept trouble," someone muttered. The man shouted, "You kept silent. She kept the truth." An old woman stepped forward. "She said the names too often. She made us remember what we weren't supposed to. That was her job. Her job was to keep them safe. She tried, and you punished her for it." The sheriff said nothing, just stood, hands at his sides. The man opened the book further. "Hold it out. You want to burn it? Go ahead. You burned her once." No one moved. "She didn't just teach your children. She carried their names, their voices. She carried them when you couldn't be bothered to say them out loud." The pastor spoke again. "She refused instruction. She refused to be silent." A teenager in the crowd shifted. "She read to me when I couldn't read myself." A woman near him nodded. "She brought soup when my brother was sick." Another voice. "She stayed up nights writing names on ribbons." The mayor stepped forward, voice rising. "She called us cowards." The man didn't flinch. "She was right. She said we hid behind rules." "You did." "She said we'd pay." "You have." The mayor looked around, realizing the crowd wasn't moving with him anymore. The man stepped down from the stairs. I walked to the center of the square, set the book on the ground. This doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the ones you forgot. A little boy stepped from the crowd, barefoot, hair sticking up, like he'd run from home. He picked up the book, hugged it close. No one stopped him. The sheriff finally spoke. She wanted it here, in the open. The man nodded. So she wouldn't be buried twice. The pastor whispered, "This town remembers its own. She was yours. She was loud. She had to be." No one answered that. The wind shifted. The church bell rang again. The man turned. I began to walk. The sheriff followed. No applause, no cheers, just the scrape of boots on stone and the sound of breath held too long. Back on the edge of town, the sheriff asked, "You think they'll change?" "No." "Then why bring it to them?" "So they can't lie about what they know." The sheriff looked back once. The boy still held the book. She said the names won't disappear if someone else carries them. The man kept walking. She was right. The sheriff's voice broke. They owed her everything. The man didn't turn and gave her nothing. The sun crested the hill. Behind them, the bell rang a third time, not for prayer, for her. The bell tower hadn't rung in years, not since that Sunday. The old rope hung like a noose above the altar, dust thick on the pulleys, on the steps leading up. Everyone said the tower was sealed, or at least too brittle to climb. The floor below had warped, the door bolted shut. No one went near it, until the baby did. She wasn't with them when they returned from town. The man noticed first, her chair empty, the cradle still. The sheriff stood by the window, eyes narrowed at the steeple. "She's up there." The man looked at him. "That's not possible. I locked the bottom years ago," the sheriff muttered. "But she's still up there." They ran. The church loomed like it always had, still white, still peeling, still pretending it didn't hold what it held. The wind moved nothing, no birds, no sound. Then the bell rang. Once, not loud, not sharp, but real. They froze. The door was ajar. Inside, the pews were half broken, hymnals mold stuck to the wood. Sunlight caught the dust floating in the air like ash. The man whispered, "How did she even reach the rope?" "She didn't," the sheriff said. The man stepped forward. "She must have." Number it reached her. The bell rang again. They climbed. The back stair had rotted in spots, but the steps held. Halfway up, they heard her, humming. The same tune the woman used to hum during lessons when she wanted the children calm. The melody she used when names were written on the chalkboard. They found her at the top, feet planted firm, both hands on the frayed rope. Her body didn't move when she pulled it. It was the rope that moved with her. The man reached out. "Sweetheart." The sheriff pulled him back. "Let her finish." The bell swung once more. Below, in the church, the door creaked open. People entered, quiet, slow, drawn. By the third ring, the pews were full. The pastor stood in the aisle, pale, breath thin. "She wasn't supposed to speak," he whispered. The mayor beside him. She stood up. The blacksmith. She shouted something. The shopkeeper. She said the names. The sheriff leaned out of the tower window. "What names?" No one answered. The bell answered for them. The baby let the rope fall, stepped back. The man knelt beside her. "Where do you learn that song?" She hummed it while she marked the ledger. The sheriff's voice was low. "She died in this church." The man nodded. "During the sermon." The sheriff looked out again. "They said she collapsed." "They lied." The baby spoke steady. She stood up. They both turned to her. She said your names, one by one, loud. She said the ledger wasn't hers anymore. It was everyone's. The crowd below didn't move. She said silence was the second sin. The first was pretending not to know. The sheriff muttered, "They carried her out like she tripped. Said the heat got her." She named too many. The baby walked past them, sat on the ledge, legs dangling over. She said the bell keeps them honest. The man stared. "She told you that?" "She told the bell. I just heard it." Below, the pastor lifted his head. "We didn't ask for all those names." "She gave them anyway," the blacksmith said. The mayor wiped his face. "She wasn't quiet." "She wasn't wrong," someone whispered. The bell rope twitched. No hands touched it. The man stepped back. "Why now?" The sheriff whispered, "Because the names were finally written again." The baby smiled. She said the town has to listen before it speaks. The sheriff looked at her. Will they? She said only if they bleed first. The man looked down. They'll never admit it. They already did. He turned. When? When they came back. The bell rang a fourth time. Below, the crowd turned to the altar. The door behind it opened. The blackboard rolled aside. And on the wall, names, written in crooked ink. Not hers. The baby pointed. She said if the bell rings true, the walls will remember. The sheriff took off his badge, set it beside the rope. I let her die, he said. She let herself be seen, the baby said. The man helped her to her feet. We go down? Not yet. They waited as the crowd sat, silent, staring. The bell didn't ring again. It didn't need to. Every head bowed, and finally someone in the back whispered her name. No one corrected him. No one flinched. The church breathed in, and for the first time in years, breathed out. They built the fire higher than before, split pine stacked in a crooked pyramid, dry kindling at the base. Smoke rose fast, greedy, clawing for something to devour. The man stood back, arms crossed. The sheriff knelt, tossing in scraps of broken furniture, part of an old chair from the schoolhouse, the back leg of her writing desk. But the books sat in a neat pile beside them, untouched. The stitched one remained inside. That one never left the house. The baby carried the rest out herself, one by one, balancing them in her small arms like offerings. She set them down without speaking. The man looked at the sheriff. You ready? The sheriff didn't answer. He took the top book, edges warped, cover torn, the kind she used to keep on her classroom shelf. Fables, poems, old histories scrubbed of what mattered. He dropped it into the fire. It caught, curled, but it didn't burn. The edges browned, the smoke hissed, the flames licked the spine. Then the fire moved around it, not through it. It floated in the heat, pages intact. Try another, the sheriff muttered. The man did. Same result. The baby stepped forward, held up a thin red volume. This one's hers. She wrote it? No. But it stayed by her bed. He took it, turned it in his hands. No markings. She shook her head. Try it. He tossed it into the fire. It hovered, then flipped open on its own. The pages didn't blacken. A name appeared in the ash below. Not carved, not written, formed. The baby stared. Mama. The sheriff shook his head. Not hers. The man knelt, reached into the flame. His fingers passed through the heat. Didn't blister. He pulled the book back out. I opened it. His own handwriting. He went still. The sheriff leaned close. What is it? The man didn't answer. The baby stepped beside him. I looked down. She said you wrote it and buried it without speaking about it. He nodded barely. The pages held a eulogy. Hi, the one he'd written the night they took her away. The one he never read aloud. The one he folded into his coat and left beneath her grave. Each line stared back at him now, unburned. She was the loudest voice in a quiet place. She named things we weren't allowed to name. She looked at children like they were worth saving even when no one else did. She asked for mercy and was told to wait. She waited too long. He closed the book. She wanted this read. The baby nodded. She said ashes don't carry words unless someone says them first. The sheriff took off his hat, sat down. Then read it, he said. The man stood, hands trembling. He opened the book to the first page again. His voice cracked. She wasn't born here, but she stayed. She stayed when others left. She stayed even when the children went missing. She stayed when the doors locked at night. She stayed when no one else listened. The wind caught the flames. Smoke spiraled, wrapping the unburned books. She taught us how to name what hurt. She taught us how to write it down when no one believed us. She taught the children to speak, and when they did, we punished her for it. The sheriff's hands curled into fists. She wasn't buried because she sinned. She was buried because we did. He stopped. The fire died down. Not out, just still. The baby picked up the book again. I walked toward the pit. Hold it over the flame. The man reached out. Wait. She dropped it in. It didn't burn. It floated again, then turned its own pages. The final line appeared in black across a blank sheet. Now say it. The baby looked up. Say her name. The man's throat closed. He looked to the sheriff. The sheriff stood, walked forward. I never called her by it. Not once. Now's the time. The baby whispered it. The man followed. The sheriff last. Each voice stacked on the other. Not loud, but full. The flames turned blue, then dropped. The book settled on the ash, closed itself. The man knelt. I picked it up. The cover had changed. No title, just a carved line, like a seam sealed shut. "She's done," the baby said. The sheriff whispered, "No, she's just quiet now." The fire pit crackled. Smoke curled, but nothing burned. The books remained untouched. The name stayed, and for the first time since she died, no one tried to silence her. The house was quiet now, but not empty. It had the kind of quiet that pressed against the skin, the kind that breathed. The baby sat in the center of the room, knees tucked beneath her, the books scattered around her like fallen bricks. She began to stack them slowly, one by one, spines aligned, pages smoothed, corners squared. No speaking, no humming, just the sound of paper shifting against paper. The man watched from the doorway. The sheriff stood behind him, arms crossed, still, like a guard who no longer knew who he was guarding. "She's building something," the sheriff said. "She always was," the man replied. The baby set the final book on top. Then she stood, stepped onto the stack, wobbled, balanced, and slowly lowered herself into a squat. She rested her cheek on the top book, closed her eyes, whispered something too soft to catch. The man took a step forward. "What did you say?" She opened her eyes. She stayed. He knelt beside the stack. "Where?" The sheriff came closer now, kneeling too. The baby didn't look at either of them. She tapped the floorboards with one finger. "Here." The man looked down. Just wood, warped with age, scratched, worn thin near the edges where the rocking chair used to sit. Where? She pressed her whole hand to the floor now. "Right here, always." The man lowered himself slowly, one arm reaching out until his palm touched the wood. Cool, smooth, still. Then he laid flat, ear to the boards. At first, nothing. Then, movement. Not sound. Not breathing. A feeling, like someone shifting weight gently on the other side. He closed his eyes. And then, her voice. Faint. Familiar. No words. Just the rhythm of her cadence. The way she used to sound when she read aloud. The sheriff lay down beside him. They didn't speak. The baby stayed on the books, watching. She never left this room. The man whispered. The sheriff's voice cracked. She never had to. The baby climbed down, set both feet on the floor right where the man's head rested. She said she's part of the house now. The man opened his eyes. "The walls?" "No," she said softly. "The weight. The part that doesn't move." The sheriff reached out and touched the same spot. "I thought we buried her." "We didn't bury the right part," the baby whispered. The man sat up. "Then what did we bury?" "Everything she was willing to give away." He looked around the room. The cradle, the chair, the ledger, the stitched book. She left herself behind. She wove herself in. The baby corrected. Each word, each name, each child who stayed long enough to be held. The sheriff whispered, "I never let her hold me." "She did anyway." The man touched the floor again, pressed both palms down like he was bracing for something. "If she's still here, what do we do now?" The baby stepped forward. "You stop trying to carry her. You start listening." "To what?" "To everything she didn't say out loud." The sheriff looked up at the beams overhead. "That's what I feared most. The things she never got the chance to say." The man whispered, "What if I never said her name right?" The baby tilted her head. "She said the way you touched her books was enough." The man felt tears press behind his eyes. "She asked me once, if I disappear, will the house know where I went?" The sheriff wiped his face with his sleeve. "It always knew." The baby placed her hand on the man's shoulder. "Lie back down." He did. She lay down beside him. The sheriff joined, 3 bodies flat against the old boards, listening. Underneath, her breath, the creak of her shifting weight, the quiet hum of her voice reading a name. The floor groaned once, then settled. The books on the table rustled gently, as if turned by wind that wasn't there. The stitched one flipped open. No hands touched it. A page turned, then another. Then it stopped. The sheriff whispered, "She's choosing something." The man didn't respond. He was crying now. Quiet. Still. The baby reached across and placed her palm on the center of his chest. She said, "It's yours again." The sheriff placed his hand over hers. She said, "You're not the one who failed her." They lay there in silence. The cradle didn't rock. The books stayed closed. The fire in the hearth stayed cold. And under the floor, her voice slowed, software gentle, like a lullaby fading into sleep. The man whispered, "Is she leaving?" The baby smiled. "No." "Then what is she doing?" "Resting." The sheriff exhaled deep, let his hand drop. Outside, the wind picked up. The bell in the church tower gave a soft chime, just once, not loud, not for the town, just for the house. And the house, finally, said nothing back.